Welcome to Parenting Solutions for Teen and Preteen Education and Behavior, the show for parents who want real root cause solutions for learning, stress, and behavior at home and at school. Hosted by educators Mike Tyler and myself, Ryan Kimball, each episode gives you practical tools you can use right away to get results. Before we dive in, grab our free ebooks, the Parent's Survival Guide, and the Good Choices booklet. Use the click here link right in the show notes. Okay, let's get started. In this episode, we are honored to welcome Cary Goulston, a titan in the field of education and a beacon of hope for communities around the world. Cary is not just an educator, he's a visionary whose work has transcended boundaries and transformed lives. Cary is the president of the Global Pioneers, Inc., an organization at the forefront of educational reform and humanitarian efforts. His journey is nothing short of inspiring, taking him from the classrooms of Boston to the remote regions of Nigeria and Brazil, impacting lives in every corner of the globe. But what truly sets Cary apart is his revolutionary work with study technology and the way to happiness. These aren't just programs, they're catalysts for change, tools that have empowered countless individuals with the skills and moral compass necessary to navigate and improve the complex world we live in. So buckle up as we explore the life and the mission of a man who's not just shaping education, but is helping to reshape our future. Let's get started. If you wouldn't mind telling me a little bit, Cary, about the common sense approach to helping young adults and your experience with that and guidance on that.
Okay, I think I've been around enough to know from Boston to Nigeria, from Brazil to Bangladesh, from the poorest to the richest. I think I've been around quite a long time and trying to reach people and help people for so many decades. I think I have a really good estimation and a good judgment and opinion about the state of affairs.
Yeah.
I've observed from correctional facilities to high schools, from elementary school to working with teachers. I've worked at every single level, from being a consultant and training thousands of executives to helping orphans. I've worked at every level of society and more than once.
Wow.
And so that being said, not as to be braggadocious, but more like from a point of practicality. I think there's a really important subject, so I'm really glad you're interested. I'm really glad that you're taping this, and I'm glad that you're asking me, because I don't think we have enough interest in the world to make changes. So you have insanity, irrationality, and status quo all tied into education. Kind of makes things a little difficult. They're going to make sure that education is backward or ineffective and swear by it. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you how we know education is so brutal and so behind the times and so ineffective is, I mean, I'm not disregarding all the great engineers and ice cream makers and car mechanics and all the wonderful bakers and things that we have that are really workable. That doesn't take away from any of that whatsoever.
Okay.
On the larger scope of things, 75% of the world lives in poverty, and that is unacceptable. And that is a product of a horrific, if not horrendous, international education system. 3 out of 4 people on planet Earth live on $1 to $2 a day. I can tell you, I can go around the world and see it. 250,000 orphans in Haiti, in Brazil, and here's the positive news about all this. Mm. Most of these people, governments and so forth, really know they're screwed. They know they're a mess. They know they're in trouble. They know they need help. I've worked with so many governments. It warms my heart to know that there are people in high places that do want improved education. And we work with those people and making inroads where we are allowed to partner and where we are allowed to bring in new technology and new education methods. I can cite to you, I can speak to you now blatantly and openly about how disgusting education is around the world. I can prove it with my eyes closed. Anybody can see it if you go look. I've been to way too many schools. But, you know, the news and people specialize in pointing out what's wrong with mankind, how evil they are and how horrible things are. And people specialize in pointing that out. We don't need another person doing that. What we need What we need is effective, practical programs that are getting the job done and in the direction of upgraded education, improved education for one and all. Now, what's improved education? The community doing well, prospering, production and activities and creativity and bright thinkers and all these things that you would expect if you were logical about the whole thing. What would you expect of an improved education situation? Students would love going to school. Right. People would be coming home, helping mommy and daddy around the house. People wouldn't be stealing or breaking into schools or robbing all the time. People wouldn't be raping little girls or turning to prostitution. And the worst of it all is this massive drug epidemic, where last year in the U.S. there were 13 million crimes. Now, I can tell you, in looking at some crime stats, which only is useful if it results in you being able to do a better job. And I'm not talking from some ivory tower. I'm talking from a guy who's on the ground working very, very hard to improve education every single day. I'm on the ground, and I can prove that. But the point is, in Florida, the FBI had a report, and anybody can see this report for your state, wherever you live, your country, for wherever you live, and do a look at it. The crime rate, and I'll tell you specifically. In Florida last year, there were 675,000 violent crimes. Now, the FBI defines violent crimes as murder, rape, burglary, arson. They have 5 of those felonies they consider violent crimes. In Florida last year, per the FBI, there were 675,000 violent crimes committed in Florida. Now, hold your hat. 75% of those are committed by 12 to 19-year-olds. So, per the FBI, 3 out of every 4 violent crimes committed in this state are committed by teenagers. Now, here's the brainstorm on this. It wouldn't happen if young people were taught common sense principles, moral common sense, how we live with each other, common sense codes to live by, common sense principles, starting at 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, leading up to that point, 12 years old, where the teenager becomes rebellious, where the teenager's trying to fight for their own independence. They become very susceptible to gangs and all these things that you see that are happening, that are tearing down the prosperity of any country or any community. I don't have to say it. We see it. I don't have to say anything. We already know this is happening. Maybe we don't know it's happening, but I think we get a sense that things are not okay. So the handling, because information is only as valuable as it results in doing something about it. Right. We can shock each other too. We're hiding in a corner from fear. But that's the goal of media. You're being shocked into paying attention. You're being shocked into taking drive. This is like extortion. I'm not doing that. I'm giving you the statistics to say that if we help our young people at an early age learn about these common sense principles, don't take harmful drugs, treat others as you want to be treated, honor and respect your parents, don't do anything illegal, do not murder, and that list of agreements we have in society that keep us all safe and productive and happy. You want your kids to be happy and not end up in jail? Or how about kids on drugs? You think that's not going to ruin their life? They're drinking and driving and this and that and smoking weed and taking... Come on, the list goes on. We have to be responsible for the next generation. And if you can't even handle your own family, how can you handle your city or your government? I mean, seriously, if we can't even protect and raise our own family,
Yeah.
so this is a real vital target around the world to prep our kids and to face the world and not just throw them to the dogs.
Right.
And that is a society that will make it when we're destroying our own children. That is a society that's over. It's done. It's gone. It's cut its own throat.
Right.
Any society that's misused or abused their children is gone. You
Right.
just look at history. And then from there, you can start looking further outward and work on education points that take it to the next level, which would be things like how to study more effectively. And you have other community programs and so forth that are wonderful and can be easily taught. And anybody, even with the low IQ, can understand using videos.
Mhm.
There's so much good material out there. So if there's so much good material, why are there such intense problems? So this gets down to leadership. You have to have good leadership, powerful leadership, strong leadership, and people working together, united with a common purpose. You have to have all of us working together. You have an organization, you have an organism. We have to, as an organism, flow energy throughout the organism and communicate throughout the organism and not have one part of the body not be in good communication with the brain, with the foot and the arm, and you're punching yourself, poking your eyes out.
Right.
In society, even at the lowest levels, we have to unite with good leadership, people who are not vested interest, people who are not benefiting from you being stupid or in the dark or being on drugs and addicted to drugs and all these things. And that's
Right.
only a few people that think like that.
Mm.
It's not everybody. It's just a few. And those people should not be in positions of power. The people in positions of power are the people who mean well for the greater good. And that is what we're working on every single day, bringing
Wow.
people together. I have activities happening in many, many countries. We're working very hard to bring people together, to bring leadership together, to provide them with ammunition and tools and knowledge and skill so that they can take better responsibility for those under their care. So that's a little bit about what we're doing. There's a lot more, like our human rights program and so forth, but that's really gives you a good summary. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that's awesome. Amazing. I have to ask you, I heard that you used some of the technology of the way to happiness or something to help avert a war in Africa that was pending or something like that. And I wanted to hear that story as well, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind. I'm pretty much an open book. That's a real highlight, that situation. That I had what's called the Life Improvement Center 5 miles from the Pentagon, outside of Washington and Virginia. I had a Life Improvement Center inside of a mall. Can you imagine that?
No.
I've had two of those. I've never seen one before and I haven't seen one since, but we had all kinds of people coming in there. Even a senator came in there, Pentagon people, embassy people, military people, people from many different embassies. We had all kinds of people coming into our Life Improvement Center to look at the bookstore, to get more information, to try to get help with their lives. We all need help. And as proud as you are and you have degrees on your walls, doesn't matter. You need help, you need help. And it's a really smart person who knows they don't know, who knows that they're missing some knowledge somewhere. It's a really smart person, high IQ person who knows that they're missing a few things and they're looking to fill that gap. And I'll tell you, a lot of people they have flaws in their personality and they know it, and they kind of cover that up and so forth with drinking in different ways. They might be cheating. They might have, I mean, we all have something,
Right.
but it's really the person who's really tries to do something about it. Unfortunately, you don't always get the correct information, and that could lead a person to not try anymore. Oh, I tried, I'm depressed, beat my wife, hit my kids, whatever they do. And I didn't know where to go, so I just didn't go anywhere. And that's a sad tale. But let me get to the point on what we're talking about, which is So I had that life improvement center, and I ended up getting a person from Sudan came in, and they told me they had been reading The Way to Happiness, and they saw that chapter, Do Not Murder. And,
Wow.
and the person said, Mr. Getty, my country needs Way to Happiness. And I said, why? He says, we have a war, Mr. Getty. We have a war in our country. I didn't know anything about Sudan. I've never met anybody from Sudan. I don't even know where, at the time, I didn't even know where it was. I was pretty ignorant about that country. And it's about 1 million square miles. It's a very large landmass. And he said, Mr. Kenny, my country has war for many years, and we need Way to Happiness. And I'm thinking to myself, rather than just brushing it off, taking what he said to heart, like really listening and really doing something, versus just listening and saying, I'm nothing I can do.
Right.
We've all done that. Really, really, really tried to listen and really do something about what's being talked about. Right. So this is one of those rare moments where I said the right thing. And I said, if you really want to handle this war, bring me to your leader. I said, introduce me to the most influential Sudanese man or person, and I will show them how we might be able to help.
Wow.
And the next thing you know, I was in the Sudan embassy.
Oh my God.
With the ambassador to Sudan, wearing my suit and all prepared.
Wow.
And that was a very, very interesting. From the minute I walked in there, it was extremely interesting. And I won't tell you all the interesting little sub stories that were so cool and eye-opening. Yeah. But I ended up in the office. Go up a little elevator in DC. They have these old building, big high ceilings, and Cupid and handcrafted. Oh, just really cool. The DC buildings, the old embassies are just gorgeous. Mm-hmm. I was up with the ambassador, and he was just this man, 5'2", very frail, kind of quiet man. Shook my hand, and I was very delicately shook his hand, and didn't want to crush him. I have drummer's hands. I'm a drummer. Okay. And we sat down, and I was telling him what Way to Happiness has accomplished, how it's a common sense, non-religious program used by military and other organizations internationally. Told him a little bit about Russia and Colombia. Mm-hmm. There's stories there about the effectiveness and the success of Way to Happiness, and I shared some of those photos. And they looked at me. I wasn't expecting this. This was just a nice, friendly visit with some coffee and a chat in this very ornate, gorgeous, Sudan embassy with the ambassador. And I tried to treat it like just another person and not try to get all overwhelmed about the power of position. Just tried to be myself. I think that's a good strategy for anybody who's just dealing with leaders and so forth. They're people too, Right. Don't get caught up in all the fanfare and the pomp and circumstance. The ambassador said something to me that was quite kind of caught me by surprise. He said, Mr. Ketty, why is Mr. Bush bombing my hospitals? Oh my God. And I just, you can't even apologize for stuff like that. And I said, there are a few people, and I just took some of my studies that I had done from Mr. Hubbard, been studying his work and his technology for many, many decades. And this was a moment where I needed something to explain what I understood about what he's talking about. Why would anybody bomb a hospital, much less a country? Right. And what I understand about it, I explained to him, I said, the actions of a few people do not represent the intention of the many. That a few people do something does not mean the whole group is that way. And I said, the actions of that person is not what I would do. I am not political. I do not represent these people. And factually, it's shameful. Yeah. I would come up with other solutions than bombing hospitals. I could think of 9,000 other things I could probably do. And if it took an extra 2 months to sort it out, I think I have enough patience and communication skill and intelligence to do everything possible to solve problems without killing people.
Right.
But that's just me.
Yeah.
Not everybody thinks like that. Most people do. Most people have a conscience, and if they cause a baby to die or somebody to die, they will really, really be hurt by that for a very long time. Right. They will be stunned. They will have a conscience, and they will feel extremely horrible for a long time if they caused a death as such. That's called your social personality. We think like that.
Right.
And I went over that with the ambassador, and then I explained to him how certain people do things like that and try to control people for their own ends. There are certain people that do things like that, but that's not me. And I showed him our way to happiness helps to bring calm, helps to bring civilization, helps to bring happiness, and it works. And he said, Mr. Cary, you must come to my country and help stop the war.
Wow.
And bring way to happiness and introduce it to the government and bring it to the people. And he said, when would you like to go? And I said, that's what I did inside. I didn't do that on the outside. Right. I was a little bit like, oh, seriously?
Yeah.
And I said, well, how about a month? We set it up, and I went on a diplomatic peace mission with the support of the Sudan government. It was all hosted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and it was a very powerful peace mission.
Wow.
We were able to do quite a bit in a short amount of time to bring the message of the way to happiness, to bring the materials, to bring the concepts to mind. Mm-hmm. Met with leaders from both sides of the war that was going on. Mm-hmm. We got books distributed. And within 3 months, they signed a peace treaty. Wow. I can't say that we were responsible for that. I can never say that, because I'm sure a lot has gone into that situation. But I think it was a spark. I think it helped to help good people to get in control of circumstances. Or whatever you are, whatever you're, it doesn't matter, as long as we can agree on principles. And the way to happiness is that agreement that, we will not murder, we will treat you as we want to be treated. These are principles that have carried on for 8,000 years. These are the codes of conduct that we can all agree to, regardless of race, color, or creed. Mm-hmm. The intention here isn't to make you become a believer. The intention here is, how do we work together, even though we have differences?
Right.
How do we coexist, not drop bombs on each other, and more interested in the peoples of planet Earth? That was definitely a turning point for me that caused me to be more responsible for the people on this planet.
Wow, that's really incredible, Cary. That's just awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a story little told.
Yeah, I bet.
that story is I don't know. I get a chance to tell it. I left out a few really beautiful parts, but I tried to keep it concise. But that story is filled with magical moments. I don't mean to sound like a Disney movie, but that whole experience was just eye-opening, and something everybody should experience. That how to bring improvements into an area of the world that's not doing well, like Israel right now.
Yeah,
there's no need. We're in the 21st century. Somebody's creating that war for their own ends. All you have to do is create an agreement not to do that.
Right.
And that's done through common sense. It's not done through bullets. You can't force people to think certain ways. I mean, they try and continue to try.
Right.
But you can't blow people up and blow people into a better community or a better communication. You have to actually engage You have to communicate and have agreement and have discussions, and you have to work together until your disagreements are worked out. People are dropping bombs on each other. That is an enemy of both countries hard at work.
Right.
It's a finance person. It's a vested interest. It's a criminal behind that. There is a criminal or a criminal organization that, no question, behind that fight. You
Right.
see a husband and wife fighting. You don't see the mother-in-law feeding those two false information about each other, making them fight. You do not see the hidden third party. I mean, people can do their own research. I'm not a big political guy, but somebody's stoking the fire.
Right.
And, if I had $1 million, $1 trillion, I could walk over there right now and just put an end to it in 2 seconds. I mean, really, anybody with some kind of energy and clout could make things better.
Right.
So if somebody's making things worse, well, why would you do that? Some insane reason. There is no rational reason for war because there's never a rational outcome for war. There's no rational husband and wife hitting each other with pans. Never has a good outcome. What has a good outcome is you sit at a table and you iron out your differences and you continue to communicate until you can finally work out your differences. And if that takes 6 months, that's what you're doing. At least nobody's dying over your inability to communicate.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Totally. Well, let me ask you this, because a lot of the people who are going to be listening to this are interested in the education aspect of the work you've done.
A lot of people are going to be listening to this. That's exciting. Really, your lowest level of education is, what people have done to you, but it's not always the best method of education. Really, you have insanity carry on through the ages, or fixed ideas or things that are not workable carried down through the ages through this method. But you need upgrades. You can't just have an iPhone 21 that's worse than an iPhone 1 because that's how we always do it. You have to they have complaints come in and they look at that and they try to fix those bugs. They try to handle those bugs and they work on upgrading it so they have a better product. So that's upgraded phones. We see that every 6 months. Mm-hmm. We don't see that with education. Education is it's a stuck picture on the wall that looks the same year after year after year. But I'm sorry, it has some big problems. I mean, you're not a parent because you have kids. You're a parent because you know what you're doing. And you know how to handle those difficult situations, like what happens when the kid's crying. You have a few options there. How do you handle an unruly, defiant child? You beat them over the head, you scream at them. There's different methods. Where's your tools? What tools do you have, parents? So our first big problem in the United States, we had 2 million divorces last year in the US. I don't know if you knew about this statistic. No. It's really very interesting. 50% of all marriages end in divorce in the US. That's despicable. Yeah. That's a nightmare for children. Broken homes. People don't generally know this, but your first government is your family. If you can't even handle your own family, how are you going to handle your community? If we can't handle our own children, how are we going to do anything outside of that? Training is required to raise children. It really is. I'm sorry. You have to have some communication skill. You have to know what you're doing. Training is required. So where do you go for your parental training? I mean, really, where do you go? You read Dr. Spock, or what do you read? What do you do? I mean, what do people do to raise their children? Yeah. And I guarantee you, they just use how they were raised. Now, my parents beat us every single day with the fist and with the belts. And there was a lot of screaming and a lot of yelling in my house every day. My mom went crazy. She got married and started having kids at 16 years old. She wasn't prepared. Right. And by the time she was 20, she was absolutely had gone bonkers. She couldn't handle the pressure. She couldn't handle all those kids running around and doing all those things you're doing. That's training. If you're going to cook a meal, you should probably know what you're doing. I'm not going to eat your food if you're not trained. Right. Okay, so that's the same thing. You don't get a license if you don't train on driving a car.
Right.
Where's your training? So we're really missing the ball on this one, not training parents. So we need a training program for parents where they can come in and get some simple training that's going to really help them and see them through those difficult, dark times. Now, what about training on marriage? 50% of our marriages end in divorce. You don't think people know how to have a marriage?
Right.
They don't. How do you keep a marriage going and all this cheating and this and that? Training. We can help people with that. We can help people with their marriage. It's a beautiful thing. I've been married 23 years.
Nice.
It's a beautiful thing. If you can really make that work. I needed some training, and I did. I did marriage courses. I did 3 marriage courses. Really, really helpful. So that's education at its lowest level. And now you build it up from there. How do you study? Well, a lot of dropouts and a lot of people having trouble in school, committing suicide. I know there's a lot of pressure with taking tests and a lot of pressure and a lot of pain connected to education. Kids going to school, bad marks, can't pay attention, having trouble, bullying, all these things going on in school. Education can be very painful. We have some tools and information and technology, I'm serious, that was developed by Mr. Hubbard that makes education quite productive and quite successful. I educated for a long time, and I can promise you, my story is rags to riches. I can promise you we can help anybody to be able to study more effectively and more successfully. And that is really big news because a lot of people going to school, they come out of school with a degree and they're doing something else, collecting garbage or working at a grocery store or whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of stories, but I'm just saying that if you can have really good success as a student, instead of piling one class on top of another, you got 6 classes and you're like overwhelmed and you're not doing well and you're not getting it. We have tools to figure out how the student can figure out how to overcome those barriers to learning. And we have training for that. There's a website, appliedscholastics.org. Appliedscholastics.org. Wonderful. And by the way, the free ebook for the children's way to happiness, I should have mentioned it earlier, is goodchoicesebook.org. That's that. Children's Common Sense booklet is an ebook. And if you get it early, your life will be professional. You can start your own company. You can have a skill, because really education is about developing skills. Right. You can do things, not just memorize. Unless you're all going to go on a game show and win all this money from Jeopardy or something. If you're all going to count on your memory as your skill, you're not going to have a very happy life. I'm not saying you won't, but memory is not what we're going for in education. Passing a test is okay, but really what we're going for is skill development. You can do things. You can type. You can build. You can write. You want to be a writer. You can write. You have that skill development, your communication skill. You want to be a speaker. It's all about education, really, and this is really cool. Education is about skill development. What can you do? Because what you can do is your exchange with the world for valuables. What you can do is your value to yourself and your confidence and your personal pride. What you can do is what you can give the world or your community in exchange for valuable. You want to be an auto mechanic. You want to be a dancer. That skill is needed. You have to be professional at something. And then hopefully that something is what your passion is. Hopefully that something that you want to do for your life is something that you love and that you give and you do professionally and you get something for that work you do. And it's all about reading with understanding, applying what you read, and having the tools for study, and then developing your skill so you can become professional at what you want to excel at.
Awesome. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I've got about 10 minutes before I've got to run. Is there anything else you'd like to cover?
Is there anything else you want to ask? How about you? Do you have any curiosities about anything? I mean, how about something that's near and dear to your heart that you would love to know more about? Let's make this really personal for you and therefore extremely important.
Okay. I'm all about helping people become more competent, which you touched on. And I really like that. Helping young people, part of the reason we're doing the Competence Institute, become more competent creates a better tomorrow. You have such an intimate knowledge of this. What are the most important things that you'd relay about creating competence for young adults?
Really great questions, really brilliant. Okay, so competency is covered in two books. It's covered in the How to Make Good Choices book. There's a whole chapter on competency. Mm-hmm. Very important to excel, to do well at something. Mm-hmm. And the Way to Happiness has a chapter, and it's broken down to how can you be competent. And let's just keep it very, very simple. You have your ability to observe things and look and make up your mind. And this is a very important ability to be able to look and observe and to come to a conclusion, because that's the most important thing you have is your ability to observe and come to a new understanding of something. Isn't that what learning is all about, is having new understanding and to understand how to do things better. This is why learning for me is a lifelong thing. I learn every week. I study every week. But competency goes above and beyond knowledge. Competencies is how you're able to execute, use the information that you have in your head. So you observe and you come to a conclusion. And then you take that information and you apply it to the real world. Then you have a new understanding that it does certain things. If you're learning how to play piano or you're learning how to play drums or singing, you observe and then you apply and then you work things out and improve what you're doing by enhancing your knowledge and your ability to apply. So you read and apply, watch video, something, apply. Right. Information is great. Information is not, I would say information is about as valuable as you can apply it. But when you apply it is really when things really come together. When you apply that information you studied and see it working, you have now developed a workable piece of information that when you do blah, here's my remote. When I press this button, it turns on every time. Mm-hmm. When I press this button, it takes me to a specific station. You know, that's like a really kind of really simpleton example, but when you develop your understandings from reading, observing, asking questions, doing research, applying what you've read, doing exercises, writing it out on paper, going to see how it works. You put yourself into the action. Mm-hmm. And then you're discovering what's working and you drill it and you practice and you drill and you practice and you drill and you practice and you continue to improve your technique until you become professional, expert at some given area. Right. A great chef will go study other chefs and see how they do it. Mm. And they might incorporate some of what they do to their already existing level of expertise, their level of what they do. I can make toast and I can make this and I can make that. But, I see how he's doing that. And that's interesting. And go to Paris and observe. And, you just constantly working on becoming really, really effective. This is what competency is all about. You can't just be great at one thing if you're living life and not be great at other things. So for me, as an example, people are very important to me. So I've spent a lot of time understanding and applying what I've learned in the area of people. counseling, communication, management, consulting. I'm not like a stiff person where, hi, how are you? I'm good. I'm not afraid of people, but I'm also not gullible. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've mistreated people. I've been mistreated, but I've so learned to become a much, much better person, friend, husband, dad. Just keep working on all these parts of my life bit by bit. Done some communication training. It's really helped tremendously. Speaker training. If you like speaking and public speaking, then take a communication course and you will become a much, much better speaker, more interesting. And surround yourself with really good people. Surround yourself with professional people. Surround yourself with people that mean well for you and make you happy and boost you up and support you. Surround yourself with the right people and keep at arm's length those people that make you feel bad about yourself. Keep at arm's length those people that really cause you to feel sick and miserable and that criticize you and that kind of thing. They're always talking about who died and the bad things that are going on in their life. You have to control your environment. You just have to control your environment. You can't just be everybody's punching bag. And therefore, your most powerful tool in dealing with people is your communication skill. That will get you so far no matter what you're doing. Everybody does a communication training, everybody. And if you have kids, you need it. You have staff, you need it. You just need it. And I've done like 4 communication training courses. I could do another one right now. I mean, it's been a few years, but you can see that my communication isn't all that bad. When people are talking to me, I really, really can listen comfortably. I don't feel the urge to run away or look down, or my attention drifts off, and then they notice I'm not listening to them and they get upset. It's like communication is really important. Yeah. And there are tools in the world to really help you with all these areas of life so you can be the best person that you want to be and have a very high quality life, which is what we wish for you.
That's awesome. Thank you, Cary. This has been an honor, very enlightening and humbling and invigorating all at the same time. So yeah, I really appreciate it.
This is great. I appreciate you including me.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you, man.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to Parenting Solutions for Teen and Preteen Education and Behavior today. If today's episode helped you or resonated with you, please share it with a parent who needs to hear it. And don't forget, you can download our free ebooks, The Parent's Survival Guide and the Good Choices booklet. Just use the click here link in the show notes. We'll see you in the next episode.